Nice to meet everyone. Really, it's great to see some Colorado product management faces, which is terrific. All right, so we're going to talk about incorporating AI into your product strategy and if and when you should do that and some considerations. So that's the talk for today. So before I got into that, I wanted to share my career journey. I know as a product manager, I always appreciate hearing about other people's journeys because no two product managers are the same. We all have very different journeys. What you don't see on here is before I even started my journey, I was a park ranger here in Colorado. Yeah. So you want to talk about a big jump, park ranger, product manager. I actually got into product about 25 years later, and I dove into the deep end as a co-founder as a B2B software as a service company. Was so long ago that software as a service was not a word just yet. It was really a long time ago. Incredible experience. We became Iron Mountain Digital's oldest partner. Ran that business for about 12 years. The business partnership fell apart. I will tell you that happens in the startup world. I went back to school. I was talking to someone about city planning. I went to school to be a city planner. A lot like being a product manager, but you live in your space. You're still building for your users, right? But I got about halfway through and I realized I miss tech, I miss business. So I went back to school, got my MBA. It's the second MBA. The first one's running a startup. I value that one just a little bit more, although an MBA is a good way to go. From there, I got recruited into Creo. I've seen lots of health tech people in here. Creo is our health information exchange for Colorado and Arizona. It happens to be one of the most innovative in the nation. So think about connecting hospital systems together, Department of Public Health, anything from an anesthesiologist to the doctor's office in clinical data, which is incredibly important data because human lives depend upon it. It means you have to get it right. You have to match belly button to belly button. It has to be accurate, right? So incredible lesson. I was very lucky to have that opportunity. And then from there, I hired onto Accruent, which is in the DTC area, doing intelligence for the built environment. And I ran their platform team. Was really lucky, large-scale platform serving 22% of the Fortune 500. Mind you, this is the park ranger from Colorado. So if I can make that journey, you guys can definitely do it too. Well, as you can imagine, running intelligence for the built environment, particularly commercial, not a good thing for COVID. So I got laid off from that job. But I hired on with EPAM, which is a large consulting firm. Someone actually knows EPAM. That's a miracle. Nobody knows who EPAM is. 65,000 employees worldwide, do engineering and product management consulting. Incredible experience. I always had the itch to do consulting, and I finally got to scratch it. And I got to work with some of the largest companies in the world. I wish I could tell you some of them because some of them are really cool, but I'm confidential agreements. But helping them to understand what is their future, how are they going to innovate, grow, pivot, build out their strategic roadmaps, and then tee up for product teams to come in. EPAM's pretty incredible. They can scale from 2 people to 400 in 4 months. That's just what they do really good. So good experience. Again, major world event. So at least I get laid off for really big reasons, right? But this is good because I actually have time to come up and breathe and meet you guys. And this is incredible. I've been doing women in product for 4 years. First time with Colorado, so I'm looking forward to this following. So really excited about that. So today's talk is pretty high level. I realize I'm preaching to the choir. I know most of you guys know a lot of the stuff I'm going to cover today. So hopefully that's kind of reaffirming. Sometimes I like to listen to people kind of like, how do you shape up and frame your concepts? We all have challenges talking to our other C-levels, particularly when it comes around strategy. A lot of confusion around strategy. So if you take away just one tidbit, I'll be really happy with that. So we'll do a little high-level one-on-one on product strategy, talk about some data ecosystems and value flow, and then I'm going to share an example on one of the things that I worked on, and then end with some considerations, like things that we should all think about if we're going to incorporate AI into our strategy. Yeah, before we even get in, AI is a true tsunami wave. It's coming. Estimates anywhere between $13 and $15 trillion hitting the economy by the year 2030. That's a big number by any range. A lot of opportunity. I'm grateful I'm old enough. I've seen big tech come and change and shift, and it always feels like the world's going to end. It's going to happen. Just embrace and get as much education as you can around the subject. Get ahead of the curve. The future will be good. Not as scary as I just don't think it's very scary. I think it's an opportunity. Strategy, probably one of the most confused words out there. Who's had to explain product strategy to the rest of their C-suite? Yeah, and usually what do they confuse it with? The roadmap? Yeah. So explaining strategy and getting language around it's really helpful. Strategy is a big thing. This is a definition in large part that I gained from a strategy professor on that second MBA that I was working on. I like to think of strategy as a living and comprehensive plan to achieve the organization's vision that results in a sustainable competitive advantage. There's a couple keywords in here. Strategy, particularly with product, has to be living. Most people freak out and they go, oh my goodness, you're going to do this big business plan. It should take all this time. No, we're product managers. We do our strategy while we do our product management life cycle. It's a living, breathing thing. It is not something that sits on a shelf in dust. We get all the inputs as we go through our process. The other thing is it's really important is that it supports the org's vision. I have been, and I'm sure you guys have too, in organizations where there's a lot of debate about who owns the strategy and vision, like there's only one strategy or vision. And the reality is that there's many layers of that, right? Org level, product level, many product levels. And finally, sustainable competitive advantage. We all get competitive advantage, but why sustainable? I will tell you from being a co-founder of a startup, that sustainable word is incredibly important. If you've ever been a market maker and created something new and you launch it in the market, you just educated the competition on how to take you over. So strategy becomes about how do you create moats, make it sustainable so that your product, your business keeps going on. We won't get too deep on that today, perhaps another talk on, because there's a lot that goes into sustainability, but good to think about for the future. So it's helpful to think about where is strategy in relation to mission and vision. The good thing about consulting is I got to learn like where everyone gets confused in these things. It's like it's amazing how often these confuse people. So a mission is the reason why an organization exists. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit or corporate organization, it's why you exist. And I had a good professor in the planning school said something really brilliant about nonprofits. All nonprofits should have the same mission. That's to put themselves out of business. Think about that. Like, yeah, that's brilliant. If they don't, they might be dysfunctional, so something to think about. A vision is what happens if you achieve the mission. So if the mission is to end world hunger, then the vision is what does the world look like without world hunger? No hunger, right? It's the end state. Strategy then becomes this comprehensive plan that we use to achieve the vision. Really as simple as that. And the roadmap, something separate. I've spent I don't know how many hours of my life explaining that strategy and roadmap are separate things. It's just basically a shorter term plan to get from A to B. Any comments or thoughts, or has anyone had to grapple with these terms with your leadership teams? You're too easy. Just us.
Tell me if this is a rabbit hole.
I love rabbit holes.
Yeah. Skip this. I don't know. But at least for me, at early stage companies, the company is the product and the product is the company. Right?
Yeah.
But at companies where it's not, yes, thank you. Never mind.
No, that actually, thank you. That is the right rabbit hole to talk about, because this discussion happens a lot. Who owns the strategy, right? Well, when it comes to this pyramid, I would argue that the mission belongs to the org and the org level only, with a caveat. There are some large products out there that have their own missions. I will not fight with those product leaders because they have enough heavyweight that they can do that. But typically it's the organization that owns the mission. Everything else feeds up to that. Everything below this line, typically there'll be an org level, a product level, there might be a portfolio level, and a platform level, and different products, like all of that can roll up to the main level. The power in that, in how we empower teams, is when it rolls up to the main level, and then everyone owns their individual sections. So multiple visions and multiple strategies. So just to drive your point home, everyone's like, oh, okay, big tech, Google search, clearly. Great big companies that confuse their vision and mission with their product vision and mission eventually end up going out of business. Kodak's a good example, again, whole nother talk. But the companies that do this really well, you will never see product vision in their org level vision. And the reason for that is it keeps the companies nimble. They can move fast. So this is important when we think about AI. How does AI impact big companies like this? So Google the mission is organize the world's information, right? Vision, end state, being able to provide a service where we can do that in end time. Fits them when they started just doing basic Google search. We can now picture, a version of ChatGPT and AI and NLP still fit within this. Those products don't break that. Netflix, which I absolutely love, probably my favorite mission statement ever, is we want to entertain the world. There's no product in there, but it's a good, clear vision, right? And the vision is we're the best entertainers. But yeah, they started out by shipping DVDs. Well, that got old school, and then they shifted to streaming. Well, what does their future look like? Can we picture like any Star Trek fans here? I'm like such a nerd, I got one nod. Well, if you ever saw Star Trek, they have like these hologram entertainment rooms. When you go to the bar, you can rent the hologram room. Netflix can do that in the center if you can picture an augmented future reality in your living room. Their vision and mission doesn't prevent them from doing that. However, their products, I guarantee, have visions and strategies. Also, fun fact, it's hard to find people's product visions and strategies online, and for good reason. That's IP. They don't want to give their IP away, right? Strategic frameworks, one of my other favorite subjects. Same strategy professor, and I've seen this in other strategy classes. They like to, by the way, if you do an MBA, they love to torture you and tell you to go find the perfect strategy framework. Best lesson ever. And for fun, do that. Google, what is a strategy framework? And the fun thing is, there is no magical framework ever. Not one single framework. Pretty much every company I've worked for, I've had to build the framework from scratch. They have similar elements, but there is no magic bullet. You might do a Porter's 5 or whatever. They're good to learn, but if you're really interested in strategy, just keep learning about strategy. Learn about your domain. Learn about emerging technologies such as AI. Then you'll do strategy really well. So, strategic frameworks, as easy as this. Breaks down to why, what, and how. And why is really, why are we building the product? And that's a really big question. What product are we building? I feel like product, we spend a lot of time. Nobody argues with us there. They may not understand the power comes from the why. And then how is generally, we work with engineering and everyone else. Delving into why, multiple things to think about why. So we talked about mission and why that's so incredibly important. Market is incredibly important. I had a couple chats with folks on market research, which was really good too. Market includes our customers, but it also includes customers that we don't have yet. It tells us trends, tells us market sizing, tells us a great deal of things that are coming up. In addition to users, if you're B2C, your users and customers, of course, might be the same. Our business, how does our business operate? Our partnerships, particularly when we talk about ecosystems, which we will in a moment. Who are we connecting with and sharing data and value with? And then legal, geopolitical, environmental. Sounds really boring. I had a major product rollout that completely succeeded on a legal basis. There was new legislation, scared everyone else off. That's, yes, health tech. That's what we hit, and that's why the business grew so big. So incredibly important to understand these things. So we always want to think about the why, which is all of these elements, and less about the shiny objects that are coming down, which is AI right now. Not to say don't do AI, just don't do it just to do it. And I think, who all did the conference? the Women in Product Conference. Anyone do AI classes or meetings? Pretty much, I hear everyone's takeaway was exactly this: avoid the shiny objects. If we launch new technology without those other whys, they tend to flop. Now that we got all the why out of the way, talk a little bit about the what. So we'll start back with the user, and today we're going to start with Anna. Easy enough. And we're going to build the platform around Anna, which is a little backwards from how most people think, but that's okay because we're going to think of her journey. Then we're going to put the context around Anna, which includes the market, geopolitical, political, all that stuff is in the background, but market segments, all of that, outside the bounds of the platform. Then we can build in the sub-segments. And now we have an ecosystem view, which puts us in a really good spot to start talking about AI. And the reason is that the value that exists within our platform is little compared to that exists outside the platform. So if we think of our platform boundary, that's the data that is contained within our four walls that we have control over. Either we're generating it, or we already have it. But most companies today operate in an ecosystem of some form. They have APIs, they're connecting with partners, customers, they're pulling data in to get those large volumes of data for AI. Then what happens is we take our value from a very small place, and ta-da, we got a big value. And the really cool thing is that other people are building that value. It's a very cost-effective way to do it. We talk about, this is an example I did for a travel and loyalty company around the beginning of the year. So you guys know the credit cards that have the travel and loyalty points, connect your hotel, connect your airline, and all of that. That's what this company did. So fairly complex ecosystem, but if we kind of take it into this view, we can start to break things down and think about it more simply. And the more simple it is, the easier that we can maneuver and think about things. So for this particular company, you can think of like airport experiences. How does Anna use and interact with lounges and restaurants and retail and airlines at the airport if she interacts with those? The loyalty enablers, including her credit card, maybe her bank does something like that. And other travel experiences to include hotels, cruises, things like that, and then, of course, your ground transportation. From there, we can start thinking even on the why, start bridging it to the what, and what are we building? So Anna is interacting, say, with an airline, a credit card, and hotel group. What are those different value streams coming in? And the models are going to look different for each of those too. And how do they operate for us as a business? So in this example, we take Anna, I think of her like a 55-year-old professional, frequent traveler, financially and tech savvy. She travels a lot, so she loves to use her points for personal travel. Again, this was not that I'm a loyalty freak or anything, it just was a project that I had in January and it served itself really well. But let's pretend that Anna really desires a stress-free, enjoyable, seamless, frictionless travel experience. This is where we can stop and go, okay, what emerging technology do we have? There's a lot of cool AI. And I bet if you guys even just pause for 30 seconds, I bet you would think of cooler stuff than what I have here. Like, what are all the cool AI things that we can do to support Anna on her journey, right? So we have an emergence of technology to support the why. Before I get into that, another area I see confusion is people confuse AI a lot, like they'll confuse Gen AI with predictive analytics or whatever. There's a whole universe of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here a lot, is basically it's a broad umbrella that covers a wide range of technology. It's everything from old school if this and that statements that have been around forever. We hard code programs so that the technology, interacts with us, all the way to deep learning. Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence where the machines are able to learn with minimal to no human interaction. It means they're able to identify patterns, make predictions, make recommendations, and all of that. And that's a whole nother set of technology. And even in that, there's hundreds and hundreds of models that go in machine learning. Deep learning is even more sophisticated than that. It almost starts to mimic the human brain, where we have multiple layers of neural networks, where you really get deep models. And this is where we get into more like NLP and image recognition and things like that, which means we have a huge menu to select from to support Anna. And we can layer all of these things together too. So this is what we did with the client. We did this moonshot vision, said, okay, that was, I think Dolly created this image of Anna. So Anna wants a frictionless environment. So we picture Anna. She's walking through the airport. She's got her really cool airport companion app, and hopefully better AR goggles than the big ones she's wearing. But she has augmented reality that's connected that entire ecosystem at her fingertips and is showing it real time as she's walking through the airport and doing intelligent wayfinding. And it's showing her that, hey, you're a member of this lounge and this restaurant. By the way, you've got this special deal over here. And it's talking to her through NLP. And there's this really fancy personalized thing that looks really cool, but should we build that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But here's the cool thing. This is when we get back to, doesn't matter how shiny the technology is, core product management principles and practices will get you there every day of the week. You just have to articulate that to your teams and stakeholders. So I think, is it Marty Kagan that does the lovable, valuable? He's the one that does the 4 risk. These fundamental questions, it's good to do moonshots, absolutely do them. First of all, they're fun and they make great presentations. But then you have to bring everyone back to reality and go, we need to check and make sure, reality check, is this something that our users are actually gonna love? Are they gonna use it? Is it valuable? Are customers gonna pay for it? Doesn't hit one of those 2 things, it's automatically a no-go, right? Like maybe some old school technology will get you there. Is it viable? Does it work for a business? And is it feasible? Do we have the right team in the technology stack? I can tell you, working in consulting, everyone's like, oh, we're going to build our own custom Gen AI. And they're still on paper. You're like, okay, maybe we need to talk about some things in your tech stack before we get to these complicated things. But good questions to ask, not to say that wouldn't work, it wouldn't be cool, but certainly stop and question, So how do we test this? And this is where I absolutely know I'm preaching to the choir, because you guys do this day in, day out. This is our bread and butter. Building prototypes does not mean when we're doing AI that we actually need to build an AI prototype. There are lots of ways to test with users and customers before we actually use the AI. I think like Netflix, again, when they started shipping DVDs. I think their first one was Patsy Cline CD. It wasn't even a movie. They were just checking to see if it was feasible. Can we ship it through the mail? Will it break? Will it be cost effective? Da, 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 da. And they did a limited release with shipping these DVDs, and it took off like wildfire. Of course, this is a behemoth company right now. They didn't start off by streaming, though. User and customer research. Product marketing would probably like to come and play with that too. Yep. Kind of really understanding through our user research, are these things we should be doing? Or is that going to unearth maybe something else that we should be doing? Or maybe even something totally different. Maybe there's another cool technology. Market research, again, is broader, goes beyond our existing companies. I've worked with companies before that work with their top 5 customers. We do voice of customer. We talk to our 5 customers. It's like, oh, they built something so custom that it breaks it for the market. They can't sell it for the market. So we need to think about the customers that we don't have. And then feasible, of course, working with our engineering teams. How? Back to, is our technical stack ready and capable to handle this? So data scientists that I've worked with, machine learning engineers that I've worked with, interesting enough, the most challenging thing about implementing AI is not the AI. It's the data, it's the platform. It really is. This infrastructure has to get done right to be able to handle the AI and be nimble. So if we take all the data from our data sources and we ingest that, we need to be able to integrate it and transform it. Is it structured data, non-structured data? Coming from health tech, where data is incredibly messy and incomplete and not even matching up. How do you sort through all the noise and make all that match up and land in the right place? And then creating the right tools for the data science team. I've had to intervene with very talented engineers who are not machine learning engineers, breaking things for the data science team. Those are different kinds of teams, so you need to build the tools that are right for those teams. In addition to your base level platform capabilities, which are kind of commonplace now in our API ecosystem, then we can surface the value from the ecosystem up to the mobile apps, our SDKs, our APIs out, and then any other surface we want if we want to do AR, VR, NLP. But once we get this going right, it's much easier to do the AI and change things around, because 5-10 years from now, there's going to be new technology, even cooler than what we can think of today. Also important to have a data strategy. How are we collecting that data? Where are we collecting it from? When we think of responsible and fair and unbiased data, it starts from where do we collect it from? Is it a big enough sample? Is it diverse enough? Is it clean enough? Is it representative of the individuals and populations that we're handling? Quality of data, again, is it complete? Is it whole? Are we missing information? Is it matching up? How are we processing data? It typically belongs to the data science team when they're doing their exploratory data analysis. They do feature engineering, like determining what variables are most important to do in their AI models, and then handling things like data outliers. They can mess up your data or missing data. They have tools that they can then do to do that. So we want to make sure that we support them with the right tools. And then, of course, making sure that data supports responsible AI. So watching out for those data biases that are prevalent. Just out of fun, how many of you guys have played with Gen AI images? How many have run into biases? Like, I put in my information in my profile and said, give me a picture of a product manager. Do you know what it looked like? A man. Yeah, a man in his 50s. It's like, really? Like, I tried a bunch of different ways. I couldn't get a woman out of it, right? So bias is real. But how do we mitigate for that and make it fair? And then finally, the considerations, which is, again, starting with that why. If we don't have the why, the AI doesn't make any sense. Data is key. Modern architecture, of course, microservices, we want to be able to take out components within our platform and replace them. There are so many AI providers and startups sprouting up all over the place. The next one might be cooler or cheaper or work better. We might want to build it. So keeping things modular, where we can move things around, which now we can talk about roadmaps. Took us a long way. How do we build and account for all of that? Make sure we're supporting the data science team, layering AI technologies and learning to communicate with our cross-functional leaders. It's not one AI, it's a collection of things. And very often it's not just AI. In our platform, it's not just the models. If we want to do hyper-personalization, there's a lot of platform capabilities that go along with that. Have nothing to do with AI. They have to do with the user profile. They have to do with logging in. All of these things that go around that make the cool experience, so that even if Anna is walking through the airport and getting the personalized thing, then enable that, which makes it really cool. And then also considering things over the long term. AI data drifts. What's true today won't be true tomorrow. So we have to be able to manage that over the long term. And then making sure security, reliability, and responsible AI. That was it. So hopefully, I feel like I just threw a bunch of information at you guys. Yeah. Thanks.